This is day 1,400 days since Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss, and we don't have his body. So, just lots of things happening behind the scenes, breaking news, going back in time, looking at signatures, and so much is happening, and there's so many aspects to this because we have the Melendez-Mendez breaking news, which connects, of course, Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, Leilani Hart, um, the attack on whistleblower, the second attack on Richard, um, the whistleblower, the setup with the canine cop in the parking lot. Um, for a traffic stop at midnight, you can do um, a rap song with that one. Um, and the connection between David Johnson with the Melendez Mendez group with David Johnson, which then connects Ernest Christopher Grant with the Fit Fam, El Paso. So this is absolutely uncovering a criminal network that has been like, what do you call those stealth fighters, those big stealth um, spaceships, right? Then all of a sudden something goes wrong and you start seeing parts of it, right? You start seeing all the different parts of this, you know, um, malfunction of the stealth mechanism. And all of a sudden you see, oh, Christopher Grant there. Oh, then it disappears a little bit. Then you see Rosa Maria, then it disappears. And then you see Leilani Hart, then you see Dallas Hart, then you see uh, you know, all of the different players and parts of this, and the drug trafficking and the weapons trafficking and the money laundering and the it all starts malfunctioning the stealth part of it, and you start seeing this big massive criminal network in El Paso that includes the media there, like Bob Moore of El Paso Matters and David Candelara of KTSM, and of course, the Real Fit Fam El Paso being military officers behind that one. Yeah, behind that one, that are absolutely breaching security because they have security clearances, and here they are doing for-profit business like the Fit Fam El Paso, which is totally illegal for them. Okay, and anyone in the military absolutely knows that, that is a breach of security. So, so this is, the stealth mechanism is malfunctioning, and we are starting to see the spaceship. We're starting to see the criminal network, and it's coming together. And so you have this Melendez Mendez, you have the Hart family, you have Danae Katzen with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia with her son Thomas Hoffman. And those are all really important because if you go back in time and you start looking at El Paso Matters, what they covered, what they were doing, it is all a psyop to cover the criminal net. It is the stealth mechanism. Okay, all these different positions in these different agencies and organizations and institutions are the stealth mechanism to keep it hidden, to keep who the real criminals are. Look at El Paso, Fit Fam El Paso didn't even cover it up that they wanted to be anonymous. They told everyone they wanted to be anonymous. Of course, they wanted to be anonymous. And even Kathleen Gannon, was calling them out on that, which was that part of the psyop? They laugh in our face. Ha ha ha. We're going to call them out on them being anonymous and keep them anonymous and say, oh, it's such a mystery, and they'll get more business. And we know all along who they are, or have an idea. And no, I believe I was right the first time. But this is all my opinion. This is the blog, my opinion. And you can see how they will target anybody that wants to have a legitimate system, a legitimate world, right? A world operating system. Anyone that wants to do it legitimately, even in their, you know, a legitimate world, still we're human, right? And we still can see, that's why we have reality TV, because we like to see it real, right? And we get very upset when our sports, when our reality TV, when we figure out that it's been orchestrated, right? That it's all been planned out, and then we get really upset. We're like, no, we want, to keep it real. We want to see real life, and um, and that includes mistakes by people, the humanity of people. And so we're not saying that um, we want it perfect. We're saying we want legitimate DAs, we want legitimate medical examiners. Um, we're not saying that there is no grace and mercy, and who is in these positions, and to um, uh, let's say help them out, help them do their job, right? And understand that these jobs are very, very stressful jobs, and that they should carry a lot of scrutiny, and a lot of attention. And so we're absolutely aware of all of that. And so we're not picking on anyone. We are just telling you that we have an illegal, right? They've disturbed our reality. They've disturbed our reality, and they put a criminal network in the system, and then pulled a stealth on it, right? To pull a stealth, and then here people are getting killed and suicided, and trafficked, and families are being really harmed in every which way. And we're like, what's going on? What's going on? I mean, my kids can't learn a skill. Drugs are rampant. The morality's going down. What's going on? We've got kidnappings, we've got suicides, we've got sexual assault, sexual harassment, um, sex cults, uh, agendas in the sex cults. And what's going on, right? We're paying more and more and more money. We're paying millions, and then billions, and then trillions, to have a beautiful society. And that's not what we're getting. Something is in stealth mode, and that something in stealth mode are thieves. They are thieves in every, you know, uh, that's like the best definition, is and deceptive. They're deceptive, and they're thieves, and they have cloaked themselves. Isn't that the right word, to cloak? Um, and now that the cloaking device has malfunctioned, right? The law has caught up with them. It has malfunctioned. It's kind of like in Wizard of Oz, the wicked witch, is getting near the water, or, and you know what happens to her when you pour water on top of her. You know, the whole cloaking is is malfunctioning, and we're seeing what Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia truly is, and what her son Thomas Hoffman truly is, and how she can get on the stand and lie, right? And, I was just watching, um, and just lie and project when she herself is up to no good, right? Very, very clear there that this is a projection, that this is an orchestrated, that this is not reality. This is absolutely an orchestration to discredit, to protect the criminal activity that is going on in the El Paso Community Foundation, distribution of charitable funds, and also monies from the government that is given to them. And they have abused their power, and the same thing with the military, abused their power, and the same thing with the law enforcement. I shouldn't say the law enforcement, I should say those that have infiltrated and have abused their power because they're involved in this criminal network. And it's just very, very clear that because the cloaking device has malfunctioned, and we see it. We see it with Bill Hicks. He totally malfunctioned when he was appointed for district attorney after conspiring with Justin Underwood, and I could say collude, I could say collude, I could say conspire, I could say planning it out, whatever you want to say, but they were, um, you know, in a huddle, in social media, and they were planning, they were colluding, they were conspiring against Yvonne Rosales. And the open records are so different than what you see on TV, whatever reporting, because it clearly shows that they're up to no good, and that they unjustly and illegally were out to destroy Yvonne Rosales. And it took us a while to figure out why. Why would they want to do that? Was it just Richard's case? Couldn't they, I mean, they do such a, with the military, so willing to cover up things in Richard's case. What is the real motive? Um, they would, with the Judge Madrano, they could absolutely stall and keep for anything from happening in the Walmart case. So what's the real motive? And that motive, we believe we found it. It was the charitable distributions fraud of El Paso Community Foundation. And that, really, because 2 days after Yvonne Rosales initiated, I think that's the right word, initiated an investigation into the El Paso Community Foundations for, alleged fraud of the monies, the charitable contributions that, and how they were distributed to Walmart victims. And of course, Rosa Maria was not a victim, and yet she got tens of thousands of dollars, and the baby, the Anchondo baby that absolutely was a victim, didn't get any money. And so became very, very clear that there needed to be an investigation. And 2 days after Yvonne Rosales um, put forth that investigation, uh, they petitioned to remove her. That's when everything really, really started. And so that, and you can see Bill Hicks's position there, what his true role is, what his true goal is, what his true mission is in that position. And it's not district attorney, okay? It's a cover up fraud. It's a cover up usurper. He's a trespasser. He's a usurper. He's not supposed to be there. And he's just supposed to freeze these cases and not let them move anywhere. He wants to cloak the cases too. He wants to make them disappear because if they're exposed, if the mechanism fails and we see what's inside through jury hearings and that, they're going to have some accountability, and people are going to go to jail. And I believe in Richard's case that the capital murder case deserves the capital crime, which and that the death penalty needs to be, that injection needs to be on the table, absolutely on the table. And so, yeah, let me see if I'm on. Here I am going on and on. Sister's case. Yeah. So, let me turn this down. So, how does this relate to directly to Richard? And I had a very, very good conversation today. So much has been happening behind the scenes, and as law-abiding people, we like to have all of our I's dotted, our T's crossed, and we're even a little bit hard on ourselves. And I know through this whole investigative process with our son's case, we wanted to make sure 100% and confirm everything, that everything was true that we were telling you. And so that has really helped us because we have a very, very firm foundation. But in the court of law, they don't think that the way that we do. They think in terms of beyond a reasonable doubt. That's how, beyond a reasonable doubt, they look at what is the evidence, what is the hard evidence, what's the circumstantial evidence, and what are the irregularities, and where does that point beyond a reasonable doubt? And that would be the fact. That would be the fact then. That would be what they relied on. It does not have to be a black and white, a confession like Dallas Hart coming, oh yeah, we had to stop him. We got our code red, and I was his platoon leader, so I had to go get him. We want a black and white like that, right? We just want it all very factual told to us. But that is not how a court of law works. And so it's very, very important for everyone to know that the institutional help that just came recently on April 24th, 2024 was huge, was super huge. And what that said is the Army admitted that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And so I can say the Army admitted that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss and be right. And be right in saying that. And, what do I mean by that? I mean that they provided the notice of death. They declared Richard deceased. Okay? They declared Richard deceased. That's a huge declaration, right? But then you can say, okay, but there are five possibilities, possibility that, well, that he walked away. Well, no, they just declared him deceased, so he didn't walk away, right? He's not alive. That he got into some accident. What? No, he died on Fort Bliss. That's what they say in the paperwork. He died on Fort Bliss. Okay, so and there are cameras everywhere, right? And witnesses everywhere. So that is very, very clear that he couldn't have died of an accident. Many people want to say that it was by some other means. And, that is totally debunked because the money is there, right? The money, the insurance money, the casualty money, all of the benefits and everything. And that doesn't happen unless Richard was murdered. And so, and he wasn't abducted. So all the possibilities have been laid out, and there's only one answer to this situation of getting the notice of death and the insurance being fulfilled, and the casualty monies, and that is that the Army admitted that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. Okay? There's no other possibility. And, so in a court of law, with that, just that little bit, just 2 minutes, that is beyond a reasonable doubt when we add all of the evidence surrounding that shows with the whistleblowers, and one whistleblower in his official capacity as a judicial officer absolutely corroborating that Richard's file were leaked, right? I was saying that before, the whistleblower. But the big thing about the whistleblower is that they identified who was leaking, right? Who was leaking, and by whom, and that opened up many different threads to follow and discover all the people involved in this. And so we're forever grateful on that. And that is really, really important for everyone to understand that Richard, beyond a reasonable doubt, okay, beyond a reasonable doubt, he was murdered on Fort Bliss in July 2020. And our timeline is a little bit different than their timeline, even though we had been working with them for a long time on the timeline that they have. Um, and it's a long story about how they even reached that timeline. But Richard's phone had been taken away from him, and we don't have his phone. And his phone was taken away. Just like this whole car thing, that was just all a lie too, and we have this proof. The retaliation against him was all a lie, and we have proof on that. And they're working on that. There's an investigation going on, I guess. They don't have to investigate too hard because the answer is very, very clear. We've already done the investigation for them. We've already given them all the proof. And they all absolutely know, because we have the information that they were doing plea deals and immunity deals. And that is why it is very important for them to admit that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. See, that's another piece of evidence why it was important to say Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss, because of the reports that we have of these plea deals and these immunity deals. This only applies in a federal jurisdiction. Only if it was all on Fort Bliss. But the reality, let's take the cloak away, right? And the reality, where the evidence is that Richard was removed from, his body was removed from Fort Bliss. They don't have his body, right? That's what they say. They don't have his body. But what our evidence shows is that he was removed, and his body was processed, his body was dismembered, and that's why several people had mental I want to say mental breakdowns. I can imagine, just thinking about it gives me a mental breakdown. But that was a very mentally tumultuous time. And so that that evidence in there to fit into the timeline of the prime suspects in this case is, don't forget that Danae, she was she told me, and I have it on record, that she was in a mental um, uh, breakdown. That's why she couldn't call sooner or whatever. She was in a mental breakdown. And so several people that are key suspects in this, and that one I've already revealed. The others, that's coming. That's up and coming. And that absolutely, if you murder someone, if you remove their body and have to make sure that you keep the cloak going, right? Keep everything stealth mode. That's hard work. That's hard work. And so to have that kind of hard work and to have that kind of violence of crime and then dismember him, and could they do it? Well, yes, because the common thread in all of this is those that are involved with forensics, those that are involved with mortuary affairs, those that are involved with funeral homes, those that are involved with the medical examiner himself. Um, they absolutely have the know-how to dismember. They absolutely have access to the tools to dismember. Um, and, so this is a worst nightmare because with Nadal Baim saying that Richard was found, they were looking in Mexico, um, and they found him in Mexico. And with other whistleblowers pinpointing places where his parts of his body were in Mexico, this makes this a binational crime scene. And absolutely, the jurisdiction is a multi jurisdiction. It's not just there on Fort Bliss. So the I guess the strategy um, for was to try to keep the crime on Fort Bliss for these immunity deals, these plea deals to stick, right? To stick. But that it's not going to stick. Okay, the cloak is short circuiting, and we're seeing all this stuff, and it's the actions uh, with the evidence is showing that Richard was removed from Fort Bliss, that things happened there in El Paso, and things happened um, through New Mexico and into Mexico, the country. So this is, you know, the perpetrators are not covered by an immunity deal or a plea deal, and that's really really important. And part of the cloak, part of um, yeah, the stealth was to control the DA's office. And of course, they already control the medical examiner, which is a judge. And then, of course, Judge Madrano, who, you know them by their fruit. Judge Madrano hasn't scheduled one thing for the Walmart case. I mean, he's just very, very clear that he's up to no good, right? He's totally up to no good. So, to cover also to have control of the FBI, which we have uncovered that too. We've exposed Jesus uh, Eddie Nieto, right? And then the IG office, of course, is ran right now by Donna Martin. just wow, she's part of this, and so she's policing herself, and so you don't have to wonder because of this task force find Richard Halliday meeting that they had that was so criminal. um, and I should talk about that too, I will talk about that because a lot has come up about that um, when it comes to the the future memorial service of Richard there on Fort Bliss. And um, so a lot of things like that are happening, which also show proves another it proves that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss because they're not going to offer us a memorial if we don't have a notice of death. And of course, with all the monies paid, um, that is a declaration that Richard that there was foul play, right? That there was foul play and that he was murdered. And so it might not be, some kind of street sign flashing black and white. The Army admits Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. You're not going to see that. That's not how the rule of law works. And of course, that's not how these people work. They were driven by many, many different aspects of this case and directions of what's going on politically and our investigative work and whistleblowers and all kinds of different just the grace of God. I want to give glory to God on that one. By the grace of God, we received because we drove them to give it to us. They never wanted to give it to us, the notice of death. And so we've been getting multiple letters of condolences. It's very interesting. Um, but Fort Bliss still is unsecured. They still have major problems because um, that is a gravy train for them. The drug trafficking through Fort Bliss is a gravy train. The human trafficking through Fort Bliss is, a gravy train. They want to keep the sex cult going. They want to keep the pimping going. They want to keep the illegal drugs flowing. They want to keep um, the smuggling of weapons and equipment and ammunition. They want to keep that trafficking going. And I think that Veronica Escobar is pulling a fast stealth move, a cloaking move. She wants to cloak and she wants to say, oh, yeah, they're the weapons. There's all this weapon smuggling to the cartel. Um, you know, um, it's where she could have absolutely, absolutely been a top player in all of this. And she's just so fake, y'all. She's so fake. Okay, she's criminally fake. She's a criminally fake uh, and a judge and a politician and don't forget and has conflicts of interest with Mario Raskin Ortiz. Um, totally connected to him. Totally, she was the judge um, that allowed this illegal. He is illegal. He breached his visa. He breached his waiver. He's illegal in this country. And he's not qualified to be the chief medical examiner because in Texas, you have to be an American citizen to hold a judicial position. And a chief medical examiner is a judicial position. So says Joanne Bernal. And things are so tough. And the cloak is coming off, flashing, there's still got some things going on, but it's flashing, and we could see that Joanne Bernal was a big problem in this. And what did she do? She resigned. She resigned, and rightfully so. She's, I think, going to run for the hills or something because she is implicated in these botched cases with Mario Raskin Ortiz. And with uh, with Yvonne Rosales and what's going on at Bill Hicks, um, she's the one that brought the case against Rosales, and she also brought the case against Bill Hicks with the SB4 case. She's she needs to run, uh, so to speak. I think she needs to be in handcuffs. She needs to come forward. She needs to do the right thing. But she won't. They won't. They won't. Um, they're so far in this, and it's so cultish that I just, yeah, it's going to be interesting. God knows. God has the grace. God has the grace to make it all happen. But this whole thing with Bill Hicks, um, he is absolutely also illegal in there, um, in his position. And so we're waiting to see what Yvonne Rosales does. And Yvonne Rosales, don't wait long. Don't wait long. You are going to pass up a gift from God. And the gift from God is a second chance, right? It's a second chance to take your rightful place as a district attorney in El Paso and do some good with it. And yes, it is tough because, watching everything and reading everything. Let me tell you, Yvonne Rosales was surrounded in snakes. Total, this Justin Underwood, total snake. He needs to lose his law license. And it's all going to come out. But Yvonne Rosales absolutely needs to take her rightful place as district attorney. And, don't miss the opportunity, right? Don't miss the opportunity. You know, God won't stand to be turned down, right? Uh, nope. So take your position, and it's going to be a fighting position, but that's what we're called to do, is establish justice, and to establish justice is not an easy task. It is a very difficult task. So yeah, the one thing that is so great about Yvonne Rosales is she got like over 220,000 votes. So she has the support of the people, and she needs to remember that. So, absolutely. Well, we are burning the midnight oil again, and I do want to say that this whole memorial on Fort Bliss is in the talks, is it has been offered to us, and but there's a lot of security breaches that need to be addressed, a lot of security issues that need to be addressed before we could have a safe and beautiful memorial for Richard on Fort Bliss, with those that will want to come and participate. And so right now, there are so many security breaches. Our lives, we believe, would be in danger with all the threats that we have been given, uh, threats that have been made against us, and the harassment that we endured, and um, just it's been horrible, horrible. And so we'll see. We have a letter prepared. I think going out tomorrow. We might have to edit it again, but I think it's ready. I think it's ready, and we can send it out to Major General Eisenhower to let him know that he has some work to do to prepare El Paso for a Richard Halliday memorial. If if he is if his heart is with the soldiers, if his heart is with the whistleblower, if his heart is with his oath, what he took to defend the Constitution and to be obliged to his soldiers, his um, you know, yeah, his service members, that he has some work to do to remify rem yeah, to prepare for for a proper memorial service. And and I think that is, yeah, I think I'm going to let that be right then. Let it be right there because it has been another very very remarkable day, super remarkable day because of this signature issue. Did I talk about the signature issue with Yvonne Rosales? It seems with all indication that she never signed her resignation. And there's a lot of talk going back and forth about that. Not so much with me, but for with others. And so that also squares or will answer, and we're looking into it, and we're going to answer with all of our technology that we have to see what's going on with this signature issue, and if there was fraud perpetrated against Yvonne Rosales. Yeah, that is something that we've learned our own little forensics. And so, that's how we found the Melendez-Mendez connection. That's how we found so many things um, that absolutely prove that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And now the Army had to admit that. Okay? The Army had to admit that. So that's, thank you so much. This is huge, huge news. And please comment, please like, please share. Please share all of these live streams. It's very, very important for the sake of El Paso, for the sake of El Paso's criminal justice system, to unseat Bill Hicks, to throw him out, to take that shepherd's hook and just, wrap it around him and put him somewhere else. But he should not be in the DA's office. And I'll leave it for justice to figure out what more to do with him. So thank you everyone for coming on, and God bless you. And if you are in El Paso, double God bless you for keeping up with this, and and hopefully we can bring you some good. Thank you so much. And thanks to your support. We have your back. We have your back. So thank you so much. It seems like they want us put forth another bond deal through UTEP. Oh, please no. Please no. Um, yeah, it just shows you all the politics that they're playing. It's just really incredible when you know the timeline. Um, so just understand that things are a cloak, that things are not what they seem. Okay? So God bless you. I will talk to you tomorrow. God